Yes, sir.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our World Cup Readiness Task Force for Wyandotte County. I'm Alan Carr. I'm co-chair of this task force with County Administrator Johnston. I'm also the executive director at Visit Kansas City, Kansas. So I want to thank you for coming out to, this is one of our designated public comment sessions this evening. So we'll be sharing, hearing. We'd love to hear from the public your ideas and things you'd like to see Wyandotte County implement as we work through recommendations to make sure that we can maximize this experience for Wyandotte County. To start, I would love, because I know we've got some people online as well as in the room, just maybe let's go around and have our task force members introduce themselves quickly. I'll start to my left with Representative Curtis.
Good evening, everybody. Pam Curtis, State Representative, District 32. And then I also work at the Greater Kansas City Chamber when I'm not in the Kansas Legislature.
I'm David Johnston, County Administrator for Unified Government.
Hello, I'm Linda Hoskins Sutton. I'm on the Board of Trustees at Kansas City, Kansas Community College, and I am retired from Kansas City, Kansas Community College. 30 years of service there, 1984 to 2014.
Hello, my name is Ken Anderson. I'm a Deputy Chief with the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department.
Dennis Rubin, Kansas City, Kansas Fire Department.
Hello, my name is Francisco Litardo with the Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools.
And I know we have a couple folks online. Let's see, I see Greg Kendall.
Yeah, Greg Kendall with the Wyandotte Economic Development Council.
And I see Josh Blackford with Sporting KC.
Good evening, Josh Blackford, Vice President Operations, General Manager, Children's Mercy Park for Sporting Kansas City.
And do we have any other task force members online? I also see Senator Petty there. Thanks for joining us this evening. All right, excellent. So we will get into our agenda tonight. As I said, the bulk of our meeting tonight is going to be informational. We don't have any votes planned for tonight. We're going to give you a little bit of an update on this task force, on the opportunity in front of us, and then we really want to hear from the public on ideas and information that you have to share. They're getting the PowerPoint queued up here. The first thing I want to share, we've shared this before, and with this group is the purpose of this group. Mayor Garner formed this task force to really ensure that Wyandotte County is ready for this opportunity in front of us with the 2026 FIFA World Cup. We are not planning any of the activities for KC 2026. That's in the purview of the KC 2026 group, which the county administrator is one of the representatives on that group. We are tasked with making recommendations on how we can maximize this opportunity in Wyandotte County. How can we make sure that we get as many visitors as possible to visit Wyandotte County during the World Cup? How can we make sure that those events, those official events that do happen in Wyandotte County, the visitors have a good experience and that we're ready to welcome those visitors? So that's really our purview, and how can we maximize this opportunity for our businesses and citizens here in Wyandotte County. When we formed this task force, we set up, see if this works. Great. 3 key deliverables that we want this group to be responsible for. I think one of the first things I would point out is we are a task force. We have no funds dedicated to us. And so we really are about making recommendations that we can give to the UG and the community about how we think that we can best maximize this opportunity. So our biggest to do is to put together some recommendations that we will deliver to the mayor and to the commission about how we can best do this. We've organized ourselves into 4 work groups, and I'll talk about that kind of at the end of this presentation, and you'll hear a little bit about those work groups. And that's really how we're gathering these ideas and putting together the recommendations on how we can best maximize this. Our second point is we really want to have community engagement. We want to make sure that we're hearing from the community on how best we can maximize this opportunity and make sure it provides job opportunities and business for our local residents. And finally, kind of implementation and oversight. How can this task force be a resource as we move forward with actually executing on these recommendations that we put forward? Much of the things that the task force might recommend aren't necessarily things that the task force is going to do themselves, but we want to work and identify local groups and organizations that can put on those initiatives. Our timeline is pretty quick. We hope to deliver our recommendations to the mayor by March 21st of 2025. So that's about 6 months or so from now. This would give almost a year and 15 months or so, I would say, before the event. So it's a tight timeline, and if there's some action items that need to be done beforehand, we'll do some interim reports. But March 21st is our date for our report is due, and then we've set task force meetings with our next one being next month to consider recommendations, and then we'll have the work groups that will work through putting together those items for the task force to discuss at our 3 upcoming meetings. Before we delve into kind of the work groups and those things specific to Wyandotte County, we did want to give a little bit of an update on what this opportunity is. There has been a lot of public information that's been put out in the last few weeks that helped to give us a better understanding of what's going to happen during the World Cup. And so I want to turn it over to the county administrator to talk a little bit about this opportunity that's in front of the Kansas City region with the World Cup in 2026.
Thank you, Alan. The KC26 group submitted their request to be considered one of the sites well before I started in my position. And I believe it was 2022, they found out that they were one of the 16 sites in North America, the smallest market, that was chosen to be part of it. And so there was significant pride that energized the soccer world locally. And so the KC26 group now plowed forward. You're now one of the chosen. Get your act together. There was a piece of information late last year, and that's what you see out here, that FIFA then scheduled the matches that will happen during the World Cup in North America in 26. And I was at a revealing reception when these were being announced. We were expecting 3. We would be happy with 3. Well, when the 4th one came up on June 27th, we were jubilant. Well, then we got a surprise. We got a round of 32 game at Arrowhead. And we were like, wow, this is fantastic. Well, then they showed us that we were chosen as a quarterfinal site. We have 6 games that we will be hosting in the Kansas City region for this World Cup. So it's not all, we have more than a lot of the larger cities in North America. So we're extremely proud, but we also know we have an awesome responsibility to be a good host and put on a good show internationally. So this is where the World Cup sites are. There are 11 cities in the United States, 2 in Canada, and 3 in Mexico. And so here's host cities that were assigned. where we're getting go ahead. You want to do that?
I was just going to point out this slide, it illustrates that in yellow are the matches that are in Kansas City.
Right.
You'll also note that the 3 host countries are guaranteed a spot in the World Cup. So we already know what dates and what locations the USA, for example, will play in. A couple things to note that KC 2026 has pointed out here. June 25th, there is both a match in Kansas City and Team USA will be playing a match in Los Angeles that day. So there will be a lot of eyes on soccer that day. So if you're an organization thinking of planning a watch party, June 25th may be a great day to think about that. The other date I would point out is July 3rd. That's when the first knockout game takes place in Kansas City. That's a day before the 4th of July. So that could be a great weekend for us here. It also happens that 2026 is the 250th anniversary of the United States. And so there's a lot of opportunity to tie in with some of that stuff as groups are planning. I know in Kansas, there's already a commission that's been formed to look at having some events to celebrate the 250th.
So what we're saying is that soccer and the United States are now attached at the hip in 2026 for celebrating. So it's going to be a busy summer in 2 years. This is just a nice graphic that shows that for the chosen cities, what's the span of match days? How much time will you have activity in your community from your first match to the last match in your community? And it's looking at 26 days here. So between the 6 games. So who's going to be here? They're estimating 650,000 visitors. And this is not just people who leave their home country and follow their team. What we find out in the soccer world, the fans in other countries love their national team and they will send in droves people. They will leave their country for as long as they need to be to support their participation. So here it depends on, we're expecting we'll get a high profile team and possibly 2 lower profile teams. So those who will be camping out here could be anywhere between 70 and 100,000 people. In Kansas City, where it gets higher is while our teams may fly to another city to participate in a game, let's say in Los Angeles or Houston, where there's going to be other teams flying in here and their fans will be coming following their team. So we're talking over this month that we're going to have this thing here. We're expecting around 650,000 visitors over a month period. And that's going to have the FIFA officials, they're in charge of this tournament. They have contractual guests, so they're going to be a good host to whomever they ask. Those are made up of sponsors. People have exclusive media rights, and then member associations. That's the soccer groups, international soccer groups, and the committees that support the activity. So we're going to have pretty much the management team of FIFA. We'll have our share here. They're going to be invited guests from FIFA, heads of states of governments. So whatever countries we have assigned to our market, the 3, we're expecting to have high-level government officials from those countries coming here to support their team. Others and other government agencies, other dignitaries, celebrities, sports business officials, et cetera. There'll be ticketed fans and, more importantly, non-ticketed fans. Tickets will be tightly controlled by FIFA, and what we are expecting that there's going to be a lot of the tickets given or sold to the visitors, the supporting of the teams. There'll be some tickets for the local fans, but not like We had, when Miami was here, playing KC Sporting with Messi coming to town at Arrowhead. It's going to be limited amount of local. So that means there's going to probably be a bunch of viewing sites throughout the region. So we can provide a viewing experience for the fans that don't have tickets, both international and local. So they're looking at 2.1 visit days. That's a lot of people, a lot of traffic to deal with in the KC market. So they've named team base camps and venue-specific training sites. So they were looking for quality training sites for it with a hotel. You have 48 teams participating. To have a home away from home, that's what the site is for. Hub for where they will travel to matches across North America. And then players and staff and officials will spend the majority of time at the team training camps. And we have 3 of those again. The new women's soccer facility in KC Mo, the Compass Minerals and KC Sporting Mercy Park out in the Legends, and the University of Kansas in Lawrence. Then they have venue-specific training sites. So there may be other training sites for visiting teams who are coming to play at Arrowhead from other markets. And FIFA is in charge of choosing those. So again, a quality training site for teams playing at Arrowhead, match day, training sessions, and good places to interact with the media. And then they're just going to have a clean site, no branding except for FIFA. So they're very conscious of the image of the World Cup. So again, here are the 3 facilities. Right now, we have Compass Minerals and Mercy Park here in Kansas City, Kansas. And the Parrot Hotel right now is Sheridan Overland Park. Then you have the KC Current Training Facility in Riverside, Missouri. Hotel Kansas City is the host hotel. And then you have Rock Chalk Park in Lawrence, and Stonehill Lawrence is the Parrot Hotel there. We are always told that these may be changed over the next few months. So it's not etched in stone, but right now that's what it's looking, the pairing between the host site and the host hotel. The one thing that FIFA has agreed on in Kansas City, Missouri is the location of the Fan Fest. Every location that hosts a World Cup area has a Fan Fest. It's a place to gather, to party, to see games, and it's the World One Memorial Park in Kansas City. And so now there's a big push with FIFA and a lot of local committees to make this work, make it safe, and make it functional for a nice social gathering for people who will enjoy what they have to offer. And a lot of the FIFA sponsors will be cited here and provide wonderful amenities to the tens of thousands of people who are expected to be there. And it might be open, there's still to watch games when there are no games in Arrowhead. So it can be a viewing site as well between Arrowhead matches. One of the interesting things that we have to deal with is we have to activate sites and mobilize people getting to and fro those. And so we're looking at possible training sites. First of all, Arrowhead is where all the real matches will be played. There are potential training sites: Children's Mercy Park, Compass Minerals, KC Current Training, CPKC Stadium, Rock Chalk Park in Lawrence, and Bucer Family Park in Manhattan. We have chosen a fan site, and then there's an expectation that the communities throughout this metro area will be holding their own local. That's one of the roles that this committee, that the Mayor's Readiness Task Force, is to how do we activate Wyandotte County to be one of the many good hosts that the KC region needs to provide a good fan experience and a good citizen experience for when we have this here for 30 to 40 days. Now we have Jason Sims here. We know him very locally here, Reverend Sims, Pastor Sims, but he was hired by the KC 2026 committee to serve as the transportation director due to his experience in public transit and special event mobility. And if you don't know the yeoman's job he's assuming, moving people from airport to hotels, teams between venues, and making sure that the rest of regular public transit works during this time period, that's his job, not mine, his. So it's good to have a good KCK flavor in the mixed, in the leadership team of the staff of the KC 2026. And he's excited about it, so that's good. And here's a timetable that the KC 26 put together. Right now, we're past June 2024. So these are the items that they've been working on. We got a TBC, a brochure, the TBC brochure. The way I understand it, and you may want to correct me because you have some World Cup experience, but FIFA doesn't make the choice of which team goes where. The teams make a choice of where they want to be. So we are marketing Kansas City metro region to many of the international teams to pique their interest. So when it's time for them to make a decision where they want to be, we would like to see 3 or 4 teams compete for the Kansas City location. That was unique when I heard that. And so we're trying to put best foot forward. We are particularly blessed by having Sporting KC, a professional MLS team here, because we really don't know what these soccer teams have in their portfolio, but they have an international scouting section. And they have allowed us to borrow their international representatives while they're out on the road, dropping into the Federation's national offices and make a pitch for Kansas City. So we're being very aggressive on marketing us. So when December or 25 or July or January 26 comes, when the announcements are made, hopefully we've done a great job saying Italy, Paraguay, whatever team, this is where you want to be. Petition for Kansas City. So we're looking for that. You have something?
Yeah, I think one of the key things for us to think about here in Wyandotte County is we're not going to know for quite a while what teams are coming to Kansas City. The draw doesn't take place, as the county administrator said, until late 25. So we won't know what teams are playing here until then. And then the base camps, potentially the training sites, won't be chosen until January and March of 26. So potentially 3 to 6 months before the event is when we'll actually know what teams are coming here. So as we're prepping, we can't prep for a specific country. We need to prep to welcome visitors from around the world.
And that's also one of the challenges that Ellen and I have talked is we won't know late in the game what languages we got to prepare for. So, but we have to have our infrastructure in place and things in place that when we know we can quickly pull the trigger and say, hey, we need Spanish, we need Hungarian, we need Portuguese, whatever. We won't know that till late in the game, and then we got to incorporate in any wayfinding, any brochures that we have. It's going to be a busy first 5 months of 2026. So that's pretty good. So in 2025, FIFA is expressing expressions of interest from other potential sites for training, just in case to have in their hip pocket. I know for our market, they're looking as far as Omaha, St. Louis, I think Oklahoma City as well, to see they may have to be pulled in to meet the needs of the teams here. And then we're always updating our brochures with more information that we get from FIFA to make it as current marketing materials as possible. And then FIFA has been making site visits. We know that they made site visit to assess Kansas City International Airport. We know that they've been involved in the site selection for FanFest. So, and they're doing this for all these 16 cities in North America. So this is their baby and they want it to be successful. Well, we want it to be successful and we're treating this as a partnership with FIFA. Later this year, we're going to see the final draw toward the end of 2025, and then the final draw reveals the geographic zones in which teams will play. And their staging, you saw Group E and Group F in a previous slide that Alan had up there. So it's going to be interesting how the groupings occur. And then it says here what I said, the teams will submit selection preferences for locations. We hope to see a lot of number ones. It's Kansas City. And then in 2026, as we march toward the Cup tournament, sites will be confirmed the first 3 months of the year. And then you just got to focus on getting ready for, I think, June 16th, when the World Cup starts. And then again, it's a 40-day deal.
And I can take this last slide. So
Go ahead.
there's been, as I said, a number of meetings held over the last couple weeks, and there's been some questions raised on this task force about some things the county administrator mentioned, the language challenge. So I wanted to clarify just from some information that we received from these meetings. As I said, we don't know what languages are going to be represented by the teams that come here, but FIFA has instructed all of the communities that there's 4 languages that they need to prepare for that are kind of the global language used by FIFA: English, Spanish, French, and German. So that will be things that KC 2026 works through. If we get teams from other countries that speak a different language, that'll be something we want to take into consideration. Another thing we want to make sure the community is aware of are logo and name usage restrictions. Like with the Super Bowl or the NCAA tournament, the organizations are going to protect their marks. So if you are your organization or business is planning an event, you cannot use any of the official logos. You can't use the official names. So those will be kind of monitored and patrolled. So just make sure you're paying attention to that as you're doing your planning for your organizations. The county administrator mentioned community activation zones outside of the official Fan Fest. That's something I know that KC 2026 is working on, of what that could look like. And we, as a task force, will be, aggressive in hoping to see if we can encourage them to locate some of those activities here in Wyandotte County. We do know, though, that outside of those official events, there's a lot of interest in putting together organizations putting together their own events that aren't official watch parties, that aren't soccer related, but how our businesses can welcome visitors on things to do on their off time. And There's some concern regionally that there's a lot of things being planned. So Mark, the Mid-America Regional Council, is putting together a regional calendar that groups can submit their events to, so that we can try to just make sure we let organizations know that, hey, suddenly we have a lot of events happening on this date. You might want to consider a different date, so that we can really try to put together a regional calendar that we can maximize the opportunity for everyone around the region. Watch parties, I think, is going to be another really important thing that businesses and things are going to want to hold. KC 2026 said that there are rules being developed right now by FIFA on broadcast opportunities. For example, they mentioned that in previous tournaments, there is a licensing fee that can be paid if you're wanting to have a major event that's broadcasting the tournament, and they'll be issuing those guidelines in the coming months. Interesting to note, if your normal business, like if you're a bar, for example, there's really nothing special you will need to do to show those games. These would really be paid events where you're charging an entrance fee or promoting it in some way. So stay tuned. There'll be more guidelines there. But I was heartened from the discussion that there will be opportunities for neighborhoods and groups to really get involved in watching the event. And then finally, I think it's really important that we make our businesses aware of the opportunities that are out there. So the Greater Kansas City Chamber with KC 2026 has put together a form that you can find on the KC 2026 website, where businesses that are interested in being vendors or providers of services for these official events can go and register their interest. And then as any bids or RFPs come out, those businesses will be notified of those events. So for Wyandotte County businesses, whether you are a food service business or provide cleaning services, or sell tchotchkes or whatever that may be, there could be opportunities out there for you. So make sure you go and get your business registered at the Greater Kansas City Chamber site for those business opportunities. I think they're asking businesses to be registered before the end of this year. And those are the big picture updates. Anything else?
No.
So then turning our attention to our tasks, now that we've got the bigger platform laid out, as we mentioned in the beginning, we formed 4 work groups to look at how we can maximize this opportunity for Wyandotte County. And I'm not going to go through all of this, but what I do want to do is introduce you. Over the last couple months, we've been working kind of behind the scenes to get kind of our process laid out for how we're going to tackle making these recommendations. And we've come up with these 4 work groups, and we have assigned leads from the community to do that. So I'm going to let each of the leads for the work groups talk about kind of what they're working on in terms of starting the process of getting these recommendations. The first one is marketing promotion. So this is essentially, how are we going to promote Wyandotte County to visitors? I am taking the lead on that work group. And so if you are interested in participating, I should have said this at the onset, these are open to the public. As long as you live or work in Wyandotte County, we would love to have you. If you're interested in participating in these work groups, we would love to have you join. You can look for information on the UG's website or reach out to myself on how you sign up to participate. We've just set, I think I have about 12 people so far that have signed up for this work group to talk about marketing and promotions. We've just set our first meeting for, I believe it's September 23rd. And so we'll start considering some of the recommendations and ideas that we're looking at, and we're looking at big picture things on how do we create a platform or a way to market Wyandotte County for these visitors during their off time. So this isn't necessarily about creating soccer specific events. There may be groups out there that want to do that, but this is, how do we highlight the history and the heritage and the food and the shops here in Wyandotte County and get visitors to come and visit them. The second group is on-site experience, and that is being headed up by Representative Pam Curtis. I'll turn it over to her to talk about those efforts.
Thank you, Alan. So we had an initial brainstorming meeting. We had a number of people there, so it was really good. And what we have decided to do, and I still need to schedule these times, so apologies to my committee members, I'm a little behind on that. But we are going to take each of those topics and do kind of a deep dive on each of them and feed into the pipeline that has been created, the ideas that come out of that. And then at a later time, we'll go back and revisit those ideas and prioritize them. And then those that we, decide are kind of doable and are the priorities, we'll continue to fill out that matrix so that there's a little more there. But there might be some that are just left for others. So anyway, that's where we're at. Hopefully in October, we'll get our 4 meetings scheduled and be off and running. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, anyone that has any interest in joining that group, you can look for information on the UG website or reach out to us. The third group is neighborhoods and residents. So this is really looking at how this event impacts our local folks and how they can participate and hopefully how we can have a lasting legacy. And that is being led up by Linda Hoskin-Sutton.
Thank you, Alan. Yes, we are just getting started, and we realize that we have an awesome task ahead of us because we want to include and showcase the entire Wyandotte County. We have so much diversity and ethnicity here. So I believe that when the visitors come, we do have a lot to offer. It is just getting together. We will be meeting hopefully later in this month, and then we'll have more next time we meet. But I also think I like the way Representative Curtis is going to tackle it by going by each area. For example, it's been suggested that when it comes to neighborhood participation and events, that we look at, is it livable neighborhoods as a way to get in contact with all of the various neighborhoods. And we want them to understand that we are not trying to pick particular groups, but we want it to be available from Bonner Springs to Edwardsville to Kansas City, Kansas. We want people to participate. And then the next bullet, the legacy youth development, with soccer being big in Kansas City, sporting, and the KC Current, we're hoping with the soccer in the schools and the soccer at the community college that we can build on that. Last month, we discussed this housing and short-term rentals. We're not sure how that is going to work out because we have to also work with the unified government in making sure that we follow their guidelines. But people are going to be looking for places to stay, so we're going to dive into that. And then the residents' impact, code enforcement, traffic. As Dave has already mentioned, there's going to be a lot of traffic, a lot of foot traffic. So how do we manage that? So if you are interested in serving on this committee, so far we have 6. But if you're interested in serving on this committee, please let us know, because we want as much participation as possible because we have a large community to serve. Thank you.
Thank you. And our fourth group is businesses and workforce, and that's being led up by Greg Kendall with the Wyandotte County EDC, and I believe Greg is online.
I am. Thanks, Alan. This is Greg. So our team has not yet met formally as a group. We're probably coming at this slightly different. We're hoping to actually have 2 different subcommittees. I think we're probably looking at a workforce solutions group and a business engagement group, kind of pulling those staffing and job opportunities and the workforce development into kind of a one game plan, and then the business opportunities and the small businesses piece of it into a business engagement piece of it, and actually giving the committee some ideas in which to kind of red ink and give us some feedback on, so that we're not just starting from scratch. We actually have been having a series of meetings, particularly with on the workforce side, trying to get a pretty good feel on the way in which we might put together some additional talent, right? We think there's going to be a significant need for help during that 6 to 8 week period. We've already started to kind of, talk to some of the school districts and start talking about, what does that look like for students to be engaged? How could they potentially get value for the internship? How could that be a real world market value to them? Is there any credit that might be able to be put together and do it consistently across the entire county? We've had some outreach, some engagement actually from outside of Wyandotte County to say, hey, we'd like to be a part of any group you all work with, which I think there's some value in that, particularly looking up into Leavenworth County and a few other locations that see that benefit coming into Wyandotte. That is all starting to kind of pull together, but it's not just about, coming up with a workforce plan, but also how do we actually engage the businesses, particularly the hotels, the restaurants, the venues, to decide how many additional folks do they need. We've talked to some placement agencies that are here in Wyandotte that we think might be able to help us kind of pull this package together so that it's a one price kind of situation, so that those individuals are onboarded correctly. So just kind of working through all of that. How many folks do we need? And then how do we get to those folks that we want? How do we get them trained right? How do we make sure they have a good experience? Because they actually become ambassadors for the community. And so making sure that we're in coordination with Visit KCK and the rest of the teams to ensure that, if your server is, maybe a high school student, you want to make sure that they are well versed in how we are marketing the region, right? So we've got to make sure that they are good ambassadors as well for us. And frankly, a lot of our kids are going to be helpful on the language side. So we're working through some of those issues. On the business engagement side, super excited to see that the Greater KC Chamber released that business engagement form, because we were kind of thinking down the same path, but don't want to duplicate work. On the other hand, we want to make sure that the Greater KC Chamber is probably working on more things that are more FIFA branded. Ours is going to be more located here in Wyandotte County, and so we want to make sure that we are consistent so that companies and businesses are not doing duplicate work, but that we're also making sure that when we get ready to do our local stuff, we've got that information. We've got a decent database between us and the chamber, the Bonner Springs, Edwardsville Chamber, the Hispanic Chamber. We've got neighborhood business resource groups. We have a really good database of those organizations that I think we can reach out to and pull together. And then it's going to be a matter of just making sure that we're consistent about what we're doing and how we're engaging. I know a lot of this is going to happen organically, but already just thinking about limited time specials and making sure that restaurants, once we know particularly what teams are coming in, that will affect a lot of what folks are going to present and where folks want to be within the community, and being able to put everything into action fairly quickly once we know what teams are actually going to be coming in. So a lot of legwork. I think the last quarter is going to be kind of ramping things up, and then first quarter of 25 we'll pull it all together so we can be ready for the mayor's report. But that's what we've got right now. It's an exciting time.
Thank you so much, Greg. And as I mentioned, there's been, I think, a lot of work kind of behind the scenes to get us ready to really start collecting this input and putting together these recommendations. And so if you would like to be a part of that, again, I encourage you to look on the UG's website. You can submit the interest form to join one of the work groups, or you can also submit ideas. If you have any ideas or feedback or suggestions, there is a form online. I believe we've had about 40 different suggestions submitted already. And those are being categorized and assigned to each of the work groups, so that any idea that comes in will be one of the work groups will at least spend a little bit of time talking about it and seeing if it's a realistic suggestion. Any comments or questions from members of our task force at this point before we move to the public comment?
Questions already in the chat. I don't know if you can see those or Rose says, would love to know if there's a detailed plan for transportation to and from event and venues. Leslie Scott says, I don't see any reference to how we're going to deal with a massive increase in solid waste as a result of the huge number of events from the large influx of people coming to the region and Wyandotte County specifically. How are we planning for this and come up with plans to reduce what goes into the landfill and find ways to reuse what we can reuse full. Would love to engage in this. Someone, is it Business Speaks, contact information to leaders of groups, please. Do you mean the contact information of the leads of each of these four? I don't, I'm assuming that. And then there's, oh, someone is having a hard time hearing. I apologize, Anna. Hope you can hear us. Leslie says it would really be helpful for small food vendors to be able to take digital payments. I always advise people to bring cash to Third Friday Art Walk because so many of our vendors only take cash. Not being set up to be cashless will really reduce the number of customers for these small food vendors and leave them out of a great opportunity. That is a good point, as Greg mentioned. Funding will be needed for the World Cup, someone states. And then the earlier comment, how do they get in touch with the heads of each of those committees?
Yes, so on that, I believe the UG has, again, the interest form on their website. You can also go to visit kansascityks.com, my organization's website, visit Kansas City, Kansas. You can find my contact there. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm Alan at visitkansascityks.com. So feel free to email me, call our office, and happy to kind of direct you to those resources to submit those ideas. Right, if there's any comments, well, we can come back, I think, to some of these questions and see if we have any feedback for those. We'll definitely take these down to consider. If there's no other comments from our task force, we'll move to the public comment section. So we'll start here in the room. If there's anyone in the room that would like to provide any recommendation, suggestion, or feedback, we'd be happy to hear from you. You can come up to the podium. And please give your name and I believe your address. Is that what you're asked, right?
Yeah. Hi, Lavert Murray, Economic Development Advisor, Unified Government. Yes. And I thought early on we gave some attention, and well, first of all, I want to congratulate you on all of the work you've put in and your attention to detail. Great job. But early on, I thought we had given some attention to parking for wrecked vehicles. And I don't know if you've got that maybe built into transportation and parking, because I think it's more of a housing issue when you're dealing with wrecked vehicles, because we talked about, for example, what happens when you have a NASCAR event. You see all of the wrecked vehicles visiting. And so I thought, well, I didn't know if that was built into the housing and short-term rental category or what, or I really think this event is going to bring those with wrecked vehicles out so much so that we're going to have to manage them. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you. We'll get that idea added into the list. I know that at one of our last meetings, camping, which is somewhat related, was talked about. There currently are very limited, if any, camping opportunities in Wyandotte County. So there was some discussion on should those opportunities be made available. But I think, yeah, finding parking and identifying that for RVs is a good thing to consider. We'll get that assigned to a work group.
Thank you. And I believe camping fits right in there with the wrecked vehicles as well.
All right. Anyone else here in the room that would like to make any comments? All right. We will go online. If you'd like, we can go back and those comments you showed before, or if I see there's a couple people with hands, so let's take those first. Leslie, it looks like has her hand up.
Thank you. I just wanted to elaborate on my comment in the chat. Um, there's just going to be so much waste as a result of these events and the games, and there really are ways to reduce that. You know, nobody wants to have a new landfill in their backyard, and so the longer we can stretch out the life of landfills we have now, you know, the better. And so just thinking about composting, all kinds of ways to cut down on the waste that we produce, but also the NFL draft did a really great job of engaging with nonprofits to offer the materials, the banners, all the things that went into that event that could be reused, you know, out to the nonprofit organizations in the region. So just really wanting to highlight that. I also put a link to an event in the chat. There's a circular economy group that Mark has been helping to convene, and at our October 8th event meeting, we're going to talk about using the World Cup as a use case for how we might be thinking about integrating the circular economy in our region. So just invite everyone to attend that, especially those on the task force who might be interested in thinking about how we can be planning for our solid waste disposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we will definitely get that added to the list. I can tell you at one of the recent KC 2026 meetings, I think it was of regional leaders, that exact question came up, and there already is work being done on addressing that question, on especially on the regional shared resources. So I know that is something that the bigger group is taking on, but we'll certainly add that to our list to also consider recommendations for Wyandotte County. All right, any other folks that have questions online?
Hi.
Hi, go
I
ahead.
can't get it to raise it. Hi, this is Anna Cole in Strawberry Hill. And I'm sure this has been, and it's even mentioned here on the flow chart. When we think about where all these people going to stay for an extended amount of time, are the ordinances for the, you know, the STRs, are they going to the short-term rentals? Are they, I mean, I feel like personally, we ought to make an exception for a little while or come to some compromise and allow our people to do that, to provide that service. But I guess this is probably a longer answer than we can than you're able to give right now. But I'm very curious as to how you expect that to proceed. Will there be a World Cup special ordinance made for that, or I saw it on there, so I don't know if there's a short answer, but if you could give me a synopsis of what you're thinking, what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah, so this is another topic where there's been a lot of regional discussion about, you know, as a number of communities in our region have changed their ordinances regarding short-term rentals. And so I think that, again, this is something for there to be a community conversation about here in Wyandotte County. It's certainly on our list of, we know that places for visitors to stay will be at a premium. The KC 2026 group is estimating that we'll have people staying as far away as 2 to 3 hour drive from our region. So you could potentially see people in Emporia, in Wichita coming up potentially for a day if they couldn't find an overnight spot here to participate in events. So I think there certainly is, this is something that is on the list already to talk about. And again, we as a group can issue recommendations. It will really be ultimately up to the UG if and the commission, if, you know, if they feel like this is something that does warrant making either some sort of a temporary change to those regulations during this period.
Thank you. I figured it was a redundant question, but I was curious, so thank you for taking the time.
Anyone else? Any other comments from the task force on anything? If you could come up to the microphone so that or that we can get you a microphone so that everyone online can hear.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah, we can. I was just wondering, how is KCK, Wyandotte County in joining forces with Kansas City, Missouri? Will we meet again and incorporate all of that? I mean, I know that the governor's real supportive of, has helped financially for the event. So I just wondered how that was going to, we have this meeting and then will there be more that we all are together?
Yeah, so the KC 2026 is the regional group that is planning the regional coordination for both the official FIFA events, but also how we as a region react to this. And I'll let county administrator is a member of that board, and if he wants to speak to that.
So I think you understand there are two levels. There is the KC 2026, as Alan has said, they're dealing with the regional response to being a good host and making sure this goes smoothly. They do have similar committees that have been formed to, like we have. I think we actually have the same number, maybe different titles, different focus. But I know that three of the top ones they've been working on right now is transportation. And how do you move people from location to Arrowhead? How do you get people from the airport? How do you deal with airplanes that are coming in? We know that KCI does not have enough parking spaces for planes, so it's probably going to have to be a drop-off place. The airport right close by will be utilized heavier than we've ever seen before, but it has limited parking for jets. So they're expecting to see a lot of other airports within probably a 3 to 4 hour radius outside of us to fill that void. How do you move people inside using buses? We don't have that many within the region. We know we'll be importing buses. It's tough to order them because there's an 18 to 24 month time from when you order to when you would get one. So there's going to be a lot of bus mobilization throughout our country to get the adequate public transit in our system that doesn't exist at a level that we need today. So that's being done. The other area is security. That's important. I know that our police and fire departments are working with the regional group. They have some leadership to establish to make sure that all the local departments are coordinating and what are their strengths, how they can contribute. So I know that our police and fire departments are working in that group. And then there's the medical. We know that KU is going to be used as a major player when it comes to medical needs. So is St. Luke's, so is UMKC. All the hospitals are working together to make sure that we will be able to handle any routine or medical emergencies in the area. So that's at the regional level. And then I think Alan is talking about when you look at the 16 subcommittees that are on that chart, there's going to be the local focus. Wouldn't you say, Alan?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we are certainly working regionally, but what this group and this task force is interested in are those things that are specific to Wyandotte County. And again, how do we maximize this opportunity and make sure we're ready here in Wyandotte County? So as the county administrator said, we're not going to be spending a lot of our time on those things that affect the whole region. We'll let the region come up with a plan, and then if and it will get implemented here in Wyandotte County and how we can maximize that implementation. But we're interested in how do we maximize these opportunities for our businesses and residents. And those are the things that we will really be focusing our time on here. Hey, any other last comments? Anyone? Anna, I think you're
Yes.
muted. Okay.
Yeah, here. Hi, I'm sorry. I can't find the little hand raise, may I talk button, so I'm actually waving at you. So with regard to transportation, you know, as we all know, our bridges are a concern. They're more than a concern. It's big. There's lots of stuff going on with our bridges. Namely, there's really one right now that's left, well, one and a half, that the public generally knows about and can use to get from downtown KCMO to downtown KCK. And I'm thinking logistically, you know, if folks are coming in town from KCI, you bus them from up north, they'll still be able to get down here just fine coming from up north. Are we concerned, or do we have thoughts about how we might utilize the existing bridges, even if they're not, say, car ready, but perhaps are bike ready or walk ready? I'm just thinking in terms of, you know, if 18th Street is gone and we have no bridges to our east, that just seems kind of perilous with this many people coming in. So I'm sure that's been discussed. I was just curious what you.
We're on top of the bridge situation. I-70 will be open. KDOT and MoDOT has assured everybody that 670 and 70 will be open for this
Okay.
Event. All the north-south I-29, because that's a major artery for the airport.
Right, I know
it's
that's great.
65. So all those, both DOTs have assured the KC 2026 committee that the major arterials will be open. And
I was thinking more in, like, I live in Strawberry Hill, so I was thinking of actually when you were like, let's think smaller and more niche and neighborhood. And I'm thinking my bridges that I see out my window aren't functional. And I was hoping, I was even thinking, I mean, I don't know if this, and this is a radical thing and maybe or not, but you know, Central Avenue, we don't want it to be a pedestrian bridge, but perhaps it could be a site for something for the World Cup if it's not fixed by then. It can hold people. But anyway, that's just a passing thought. But thank you for your answer. I appreciate it.
we appreciate those passing thoughts. So without, we encourage them. Thank you for sharing.
I do still want cars on the Central Avenue Bridge. Just saying. Thanks.
I agree with you, Anna, and I'm real concerned about that too, because I think that that's, you know, we've got to figure out access in order to maximize this opportunity for this part of town. So indeed, you know, I've been having multiple conversations about that. And so indeed, I share that. And I like your idea of thinking creatively, like if we aren't able to get the funding, if we aren't able to have these bridges, like how can we still utilize our infrastructure and still make sure that we're not losing out on this opportunity. So thank you for chiming in on that. I appreciate you bringing that up.
I'm
I see
excited.
other people that were in my brainstorming session on this call. So please, we had a lot of great ideas. And so this is a great time if you want to share any of those. There'll be plenty of opportunities later as well, but please, you know, don't be shy. Feel free to share.
All right, do we have any other comments? All right, we've become a quiet group. So we will take that as a sign that we will close this opportunity for public comments. But as I mentioned, the survey is still online. You're welcome to submit any ideas or suggestions you have there. And then those are getting assigned to the group. I've taken notes and we'll also capture everything that's in the chat, and we'll get those assigned to each of the work groups to talk about. And then the survey, again, we'll make sure the link gets sent out, but I believe it lives on the UG website. I know they've been sending it out in the weekly UG newsletter that is sent out from the Unified Government. So so you can look for that. We'll make sure that it is easy to access. All right, if there's no last comments from our task force, this will wrap up the meeting this evening. Our next meeting is set for October 10th at 1:30 p.m. for this group. We'll send out a reminder to the task force. These are public meetings, so the public is invited to attend. That meeting, we may have a location change, as I believe this room is booked. So we're looking for some alternate options either in this building or potentially offsite. So we'll have an update on, stay tuned and look for that. And we are looking forward to, I believe that next meeting will be the first meeting of the task force where we do actually go over recommendations. We're expecting to have some recommendations back from our work groups. So we will begin talking about recommendations and what we want to get adopted into our report. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for joining us this evening. This will conclude the meeting.
Thank you.